right. It is not unusual to feel nervous about public speaking. I have been so scared, particularly there was a physiological birth conference that was at the Royal College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, what do you call it, college, like the college in London, and they put me in a hotel room overnight so that I could present there, and it was the wrong thing to do, being on site at where I was going to have to present in front of all of these obstetricians and midwives and others. I was just kind of crapping myself, to be perfectly honest. And yeah, it can be really nerve-wracking. So there's a couple of ideas that I come back to. The first is I have a writer I really like called Carolyn Goyder, and I think she nicked this from a guy called Michael Grinder, but she talks about the cat-dog model. So the idea is that when you are the kind of person that likes to be very helpful and explain everything, sometimes that can take gravitas away from what you're saying. And I totally get this. I jump ahead and try to be essentially everybody's best friend. I came across an obstetrician like this the other day, and she's just wonderful, and I think that in practice can be such an asset. But in terms of public speaking, think about whether you are... This is going to come across as really rude, and I don't mean it like that. It's just a model, and I don't think one type of person is better than the other. It's just literally what energy can we harness that makes public speaking easier. So when you are in dog mode, you are happy to see everybody and very smiley and bouncy and how can I help? And something about that isn't necessarily like leadership, like public speaking-y in tone. So instead what you can do is think about how cats behave. Most cats are quite withdrawn, standoffish. And yeah, you can... And also this will help you slow down probably as well. Think cat rather than dog, basically. So what you're aiming for is being like a cat, surveying things, but remaining emotionally unengaged. This can be super useful for placement, frankly, as well, in certain situations. And if you've got somebody who's assessing you as part of your presentation and you are finding them reasonably intimidating, this can also be a good technique. And what you'll find is that there are different types of people in the world, and some people in professional circumstances, they become very not terribly warm, to be honest, and that's fine. They don't have to be warm. But if you're being assessed by somebody like that and it's pissing you off, if you lean into cat mode more, they will likely find that quite reassuring and they'll be able to connect with you better. And it's absolutely fine to be in that standoffish sort of position as you are presenting. It will add gravitas, if anything. But if you hate the idea, just as always, throw it out, but just give it a go, see whether you like it. Another really interesting concept would be I am naturally something called a push communicator. So I like to, if I've got somebody who I'm even slightly connected to, I like to listen and get to know them and then share lots of things about myself that I think are generous. And some people are just not like that. They are more pull communicators. It takes them a little bit of time to warm up socially, and they do a lot of thinking behind the scenes, and they might feel like in a situation where they're having to do public speaking, why on earth would anybody want to hear from me? And sometimes I wonder if with students and midwives who don't really like presenting, we're essentially trying to get them to change their nature by asking them to stand up in a room full of people. And yeah, that's tricky. That is indeed tricky to maneuver around if you're relating to what I'm saying here. But what I'd say is that my experience in writing groups and other places, including midwifery, is that usually what you have to say, even in its infancy, if you are a pull communicator who we have to pull things out of you, you might just have to be really generous with us on this occasion, because probably what you've got in your head is gold, and that can be like your number one job as part of communicating in terms of presentations. So in terms of thinking about other things, it's a great idea to try and anticipate some of the questions you might get asked so that you can have some answers prepared. But don't worry, if you don't know the answer, just calmly say, okay, well, I'll look into that for you. It's a really good question. I will email round if that's okay. If you've got anybody who you think might have the answer, also a really good idea to pull on their resources. And yeah, it could also be a really good idea to practice your presentation in front of another student midwife. So perhaps you could swap before the big day. You may have too much on to do that. But maybe in the community here, if you're really struggling with a presentation, you can consider doing it for us here. I'd love that. Or find somebody, message somebody and see if anybody is up for a swap. But I hope this is helpful. Leave me a comment about any presentations that you're doing and any assistance that you need. And yeah, good luck out there. Loads of us don't feel particularly comfortable presenting, but sometimes that can make it very dynamic. And, speak clearly, stay slow, know that one thought at a time is best if you're somebody who races ahead because you're nervous. But I don't think you have to be perfect to do a really good job. And certainly most of the presentations I've given in my life, I haven't been very comfortable, but that has meant there's something very relatable when you know your material, you are trying, and the audience can see that. There's something very compelling about that. And I wish you the best of luck.